Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Digital Access Show. I just had to look, see where the camera was. Okay, I can't see properly. I think I'm looking straight at you guys. Listen, today I want to approach the operability principle, but we're looking at one particular area, navigability. But we're going a bit more in depth. We're looking at navigability and cybersecurity. Why? Everyone gets hacked. This really is aimed at the developers, the designers, anyone that's doing content, and just some thoughts for you on how to make your website more secure. So to do this, I've brought along a friend of mine, Luke Irwin from Aegis Cybersecurity. Luke, thank you so much.
G'day, Narelle. Thanks for having me.
Luke, can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into cybersecurity?
Yeah, certainly. So I've been in tech now for 23, 24 years, been in cyber for about 10. I started off doing tech back when I was still with the Royal Australian Navy, where I was looking after a fairly significant database system. And over the last 20 odd years, I've simply worked my way through and up various tech and management roles where about a decade ago I decided to transition towards cyber. And now I run a security consultancy working with firms to help them address their gaps, their vulnerabilities, their risks, and get them on the right path so the bad guys don't essentially destroy what they've put all that work into.
Mm. One of the things, and you and I have just, we keep having conversations about it because obviously I'm passionate about digital accessibility and
Mm,
you're passionate about cybersecurity. There's
yes.
an interconnection there, isn't there?
Oh, massively. It's so many of the systems that exist nowadays on like you cannot live without the internet nowadays. You
Yeah.
can, but life's going to become really difficult and really slow. But everything nowadays, it's so interconnected and it's so dependent upon being able to access and use technology appropriately and securely. And when you look at how many of these systems are configured online, even looking at, say, bill payment portals for your power, your water, your gas, your phone, they're not necessarily easy to navigate from a vision impairment, hearing impairment,
Mhm.
processing impairment, that that simple design makes it harder to participate in day-to-day life. A classic example of that is you look at the puzzle-based captchas. Like, how
Oh,
is somebody who has a vision impairment supposed to realize where to put that puzzle piece in a mixture of colors? If you look at
yeah.
the options, which Microsoft, to their credit, they've given a vision-based and a sound-based
Mm.
approach. But when you push the speaker button to make it play back what is on that capture, it may be distorted. And if you've got a hearing impairment and a vision impairment, you can't see it, and your hearing aid or your hearing cannot make out what is being said. So there needs to be a
Mm.
better third way to be able to secure and validate who is accessing the system.
What's something that people can do, Luke? What's
Um,
something briefly
so,
that people
yep.
can do?
All right. So a lot of other systems will fall back to either an SMS based or an email based multi-factor. And while having that as a multi-factor is better than having nothing, I just want to make it clear that that's not very secure. It's about the equivalent of putting I can't think of a good example, putting a $2 lock on a $1 million bank vault. It'll stop the honest people. It won't stop the people that really want to get in. Things like the multi-factor authentication via the authentication apps from Microsoft and Google
Yep.
and a couple of others out there, they are much better. But the challenge with that is to set them up, you generally need to have good vision because you need to be able to navigate, you need to be able to position the QR codes, put in the details, read back these challenge responses they make you go through. So there's a gap between the need for security and the need for accessibility. And I feel the industry hasn't yet hit that good middle ground. That's probably the best way I can answer that one for you, Narelle.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because I've never, for me, I thought, oh, multi-factor authentication. I suppose being a coder, I'm not cybersecurity. I will make that clear to audience. I wrote code for 40 odd years. Definitely, I was in databases. I was in
Mm,
desktop, bit of web development,
mm.
not cybersecurity.
Yeah,
To be honest, I only just passed the cybersecurity section. It's the second time I went back to do my degree because of the way you have to change your thinking completely to do
yeah.
it. The other thing that I'm noticing, and look, I'm getting a ton of SMSs at the moment,
Mm,
and that they're from they pretend to be from the bank, or
yeah.
the latest one yesterday was Australia Post. Now
Yes.
I know there's no parcels being delivered to me, but
Mm.
they look
They look
kosher
real.
because,
Yeah.
yeah, because it just uses words like, oh, click here, and that's
Yes.
one of the things that digital accessibility really stresses about. From a cybersecurity point of view, what's the dangers?
Oh, so what you're describing here is called a phishing attack, and it's
Yep,
PHISHING. So it's
yep.
trying to trick you into doing something or giving up something you don't want to do. I
Mm,
have lost count of the SMSs I get from Toll or Linked or Australia
mm,
Post going, you have a parcel, your toll fees are overdue.
yep.
Now, one, is that a normal communication method for that organization to reach out to you? And 90%
Mm,
of the time, the answer is no.
mhm.
Um, if you have a screen reader, you may be able to hover over the button and it will
That's
give
if
you,
you can use a keyboard.
if you can,
If
yes.
you use a mouse, sorry, people that use a
Yeah.
keyboard can't even do that.
You are, generally speaking, you're correct. Yeah. That if the
Yeah.
developer has done it well, you can push
Mm.
tab to navigate to things. But again, if you can't use the
Yep.
keyboard, you've got a whole other problem.
Yeah.
That's where one of the issues of compatibility between
Mm.
accessibility and cybersecurity essentially butt heads to a certain extent.
Oh, okay.
Because cybersecurity, they want you to slow down and think and use all the tools available to you to determine if something is safe or not safe. But
Yep.
if you have an accessibility issue, you might not be able to use the tools to determine if it's safe or not safe.
Oh my
So there's this
God.
expectation that you can against an existence of capability that you can't because of vision or hearing or tactile. And that's one of the questions that hasn't been answered yet by the industry. One of the things that you need to do when you're looking at or clicking on any link is actually understand where you're going. So if you look
Yep.
at the link, you want to look at what's at front, look at what comes after the slashes, and look for where you've got things like after the first section you can see, like it might be telstra.com.au slash
Mhm.
gibberish, and then
Yep.
slash aws.ru. something. That's where you're
Yep.
actually going. You need
Yep.
to know how to be able to read those links and work out where you are going. Now, I understand that many of the disability support tools may not be able to appropriately handle those, and that does create a risk for people with
Mhm.
a disability. And I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for that because
Yeah.
I'm yet to come across a set of systems or tools or products that can actually correctly address that risk for you.
Do you know
Um,
what? This is bringing up more questions than answers.
oh yeah, this is one of the things I both love and sometimes struggle with cybersecurity. Every time you get an answer, three or four more questions pop up, and you end up going down a rabbit hole. It's one of the things I love, but with limited time, there's only so far down the hole you can go.
Yeah.
Um, when you're also looking at these links, well, the first question is you need to understand, why is this person sending it to you? Now, I'm
Yep.
not saying that everybody sends you an SMS is trying to scam you. That's just
Yeah.
not accurate. But if your phone is filtering it through into junk, then there's a high likelihood that it's junk because Google and Apple, with the support of the telcos like Telstra and
Mhm.
Optus and Vodafone, work to detect when these types of SMSs are sent out, they match them against other types and push them into the junk folder.
Mhm.
Now, if they're there, it is possible that valid things go in there, but it is less likely that they are valid, strongly less likely. So if it's in your junk, please be careful. If you get an email, or sorry, an SMS or even an email from your bank, Toll, Linked, Australia Post, a courier company, do
Yep.
not click on the link in the email or the SMS. Go to Google, look up the website, and then go into that website and put in your details or the details that have been provided you in that message. Your tracking number is whatever. It's not great because you might be looking at a 25 character long string of digits, which
Mm.
could be challenging. But if you do it that way, then you know that you've gone into a secure system and you haven't clicked on a link that is taking you somewhere that's going, hey, to release this package, we need your credit card number. The question is, if anyone's asking for your credit card number and you're not actively trying to buy something, please don't put it in.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
it's yeah, that's one of the risks that exist, and it's people want to believe what they receive is true and accurate, and they want to believe the
Mm.
person sending it is trying to help them get what is theirs.
Mm.
But in most cases, with the cost of execution for a digital attack being so low, the bad guys, they will send out tens of billions of these messages and see what sticks. If only 0.01% actually result in revenue, cool, that's still a million people we've gotten. And if we get a
Oh
million
my
people for
gosh.
$5 each for something that had no cost and very little risk,
Yep.
then it's a positive for them. It's
Yeah.
the same way the old spam emails used to work so well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember
So,
them. Look, one of the things when I go onto a web page,
mhm.
and it could be like, could be anything. And again, you get that generic wording like learn more here or
Yeah,
click here. Again, how does a person guarantee that the web page hasn't been overlaid by
yep.
another web page, hacked into anything else?
Okay.
Because it's just, yeah,
Okay. So with those types of things, so what you're describing there, like putting an overlay in, is a fairly
yeah,
sophisticated attack. So that means someone
mm-hmm,
has to have taken over the website. And
yeah,
generally speaking, the more successful, popular, and used websites are going to have good website security. That's not
yeah,
100% across the board, but one of the best ways to tell is up in the top left-hand corner of the address bar, there'll usually be a
mm-hmm,
little padlock or a shield or something similar. That indicates that you're communicating via what's called HTTPS, which is Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure. That
okay. But if
means
you've got a vision impairment,
exactly. And again, this is one of
yeah,
those gaps where cybersecurity versus disability accessibility,
yeah,
there isn't an answer yet. I don't know if a screen reader can successfully read that, but if as long as it's HTTPS and you've got that little
yeah.
padlock, then the site is who they claim to be. Now
So the
that
screen reader will read the address bar, so that's good.
fantastic. Yeah. So if it says
Yep,
HTTPS, then you're good.
yep,
Now, I want to call out there is a bit of a risk there still, because that's
mm-hmm.
on the assumption you've gone to the right page. We'll pick Google, for example. So Google.
Yep.
Let's go Google. That isn't Google.
Mm,
You can
yeah,
register that and say who they are and get a certificate saying that. Now,
yeah,
Google would have registered addresses around that, but as an example, you aren't actually on Google, you're on Google. So
yep,
anything you put in there isn't going to who you think it's going to. So you need to make sure where you're going is actually where you're supposed to be. And you've typed in the address correctly or cut and pasted the address. You've gone to the correct address.
yeah.
Um,
Uh, One of the tips that I like to always use as well with the link, the naming of links and things,
mm,
I always say use 5 words or less, but be concise about where you're
yeah,
taking them to. Don't say learn more. About what?
exactly. If you're going to
Because
put
screen readers read out of context.
precisely, the use of alt text is critical.
Mhm.
You need to
Oh,
use alt
yeah.
text on buttons, on pictures, on links. Make sure that
Yep.
if you've got a button or a link that says click here, that if you
Mm.
hover over it, the alt text actually tells you where it's going.
Yeah.
If you just say click here, how is somebody who has a vision impairment supposed to understand and see where they are going? By not doing that, the developers and the web devs are introducing risk. They're,
Yeah.
they're potentially creating a problem. Yes, they know
Oh,
where they're
yeah.
going to is secure, but
Mm.
how does the person who wants to go there know that? So
Yeah.
there needs to be better accessibility on these websites to support people with a vision impairment or any other form of disability to be able to access content as the rest of us in society do. It's not appropriate that they can't. So
Yeah.
I'll get off my soapbox now.
Okay. No, 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 don't, because I've got one more for you. Hang on.
Yep, go
Hang
for
on
it.
here, Luke. Okay, and we were talking briefly. One of the things I see as an auditor is the use of the no script, where they put JavaScript basically
Yep.
in a HTML page. Now that can be possibly hacked as well, I would assume, because it's just adding JavaScript, and JavaScript is the basis of what a lot of hackers work with.
Yeah, so JavaScript, it's a processing language. So
Yeah.
it can do a lot of really cool stuff. But if somebody
Mm.
is going to be putting it is possible for somebody to put malicious JavaScript on a page but that
Yep.
means they have to have compromised the page.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Yep.
so long as you're going to say the reputable sites, let's just say Telstra or Optus or AGL, whoever else it might be, they're going to have systems and processes to prevent those types of attacks.
Yep.
If somebody is attacking the website to take it over to install malicious code, then they are dealing with a different level of skilled attacker. And that is a problem for the business to deal with, where everybody, being it with a disability or without a disability, now has to deal with.
Yeah.
There was an attack on British Airways website a few years back where they did a similar attack using, I think it was a Python code repository that let them do all sorts of, from cybersecurity, pretty cool, but in reality, pretty evil things of how they did it. But that just comes down, the site got compromised because supply chain wasn't checked correctly. But that is a problem for the business to manage, not the individual, because the individual is consuming the service. The business has an obligation to make sure that their systems are secure, well managed, and accessible. And if they're not doing that, they need to be held to account.
Yeah. Oh, my mind's racing now. Okay. With all that in mind,
Yep.
what's a couple of tips you can give for the person going onto the website, regardless, disability, without disability, and you've given some good tips as you go through it. What's a couple of other things that they can do other than the HTTPS stuff we've talked about, just to make sure they're safe? And particularly, obviously, we aim at people with disability.
Yeah.
What can they
So
do?
there's a couple of things that it probably might not be website specific, but if your computer is asking to update itself, let it. Same for your phone. Let it. If your phone's saying I need to restart to apply an update, don't delay for a week, a month, whatever. Just let it do it. I know you're going to lose all your browser tabs, but just let it update. The same goes for your browser when it wants to update. When they're releasing those updates, they are addressing security problems, they are addressing performance problems, and they're addressing functionality problems. So by letting it update, you're removing those risks. You're letting it do what it needs to do to fix itself. That's the first one. The second one, I'd say multi-factor authentication. If something has it as an option, use it. While it is not the silver bullet to prevent all impersonation or account takeover attacks, it is one of the strongest tools to prevent that. If you are dealing with somebody who can do what's called a multi-factor bypass attack, you are dealing with a very skilled attacker. And we have a different problem that we should have a separate conversation about, because that's a whole different barrel of fish. Multi-factor, if it's available, use it. The other thing I could probably think to say is, if you don't know what it is, please don't click on it. And that actually goes for QR codes as well. Like QR codes, if they're on the back of a food packet or at the 7-Eleven next to the counter, they're fine. They are. Someone has, a human or a product developer in a warehouse, whatever, designed a QR code to go on this food packet. That's fine. That is safe. But there's been attacks on parking meters, on charging stations, where bad guys have gone along and put QR stickers over the QR codes on those machines. And when you go and scan them, it now brings up the attacker's website asking for your details. So use the app if you can. You just use the credit card tap and pay. If it's not something that is in a human's line of sight 24/7, don't trust it. I'm not saying put on your tinfoil hat and tinfoil the windows. That's my job. But be aware that people will be trying to take advantage of your good nature and your willingness and want to trust. And the bad guys take advantage of that, and that is how they generate revenue. So just stop, breathe, think, then act.
Okay. So let's flip it on its head.
Yes.
What tips can you give developers, designers?
Developers and designers, alt text is your friend. Use alt text. Using rollover drop-down menu functionality is not disability friendly. If you have to hover over a link to make it pop down the screen, you've just lost access to people who may not have a steady hand, who do not have perfect vision. who do not have the tactile control. So make it direct buttons, or make it things that provide a function, not a, hey, pop down, here's 15 things with submenu and submenu. And if you happen to move off that menu slightly, the entire thing collapses. No. If you have to do pop down and pop out menus, give it a 2 or 3 second delay to close so the person has the option to bring it back on. Make it so that the site can be navigable via tab keys, arrow keys, things like that. So there's actually tabination set up through the site. Doing that, you're starting to go in a long way. Trying to think what else would be appropriate there. Those are the big ones. If you're having carousels, don't make the images move quickly.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you
I hate carousels. I really hate carousels now.
And they're great from a marketing perspective. Sure, you got 5 images, but don't be image, 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 image. Go image, count to 8. Image, count to 8. That's fine. Like that sort of pacing. Give the person the ability to see, analyze, and respond to the stimuli that's being presented. Not everybody is able to go, not everyone's got the reflexes of a 7-year-old to go, push a button, done. Need to provide the opportunity and time delays to that. Or if you really want to push down the accessibility path, perhaps set up a mirrored version of your site, which actually has accessibility version as a button that's easy to find. So then that way, here's the entire site, but designed without all the bells and whistles, designed to be accessible. It still provides the same functionality, but you don't need to have those super fast carousels and the drop-down rollout menus and all of the things that make it hard for somebody with a form of impairment to be able to use the tools that everyone else uses.
Oh, Luke, thank you. That's been awesome. Now, next time we have a cuppa, I'm going to say, okay, Luke, let's keep going. Got a few more.
Happy to.
Let's discuss this. Luke, how can people contact you? Because obviously for anyone, any developer, designer, they do need to know what they're doing. Digital accessibility is so important.
Oh, yes.
How can they get onto you?
Yeah, so I can be reached on info@aegiscyber.com.au. You can look me up on LinkedIn as Luke Irwin, IRWIN. More than happy to have a chat around cybersecurity. Happy to chat around some of the basics around accessibility, but for any of the in-depth stuff, I'm going to pass you on to an expert I know. She happens to be the other person on this chat. Most of what I've learned from her. But yeah, it's from the website, from LinkedIn. More than happy to have a chat around cybersecurity and what you can do to try and make things better, more secure, and more accessible.
You know what? This has really made me realize how digital accessibility can help cybersecurity, because the stuff we've been talking about, I mean, there is an actual success criteria about authentication.
Yes.
There's a success criteria about links, about all types of stuff. The old text, it's there.
The moment we started having this conversation, my brain had already started processing, going, how can we do MFA in a secure manner for somebody who has a vision impairment? Going, okay, what systems and tools? I can think of a couple. Like there's ones called YubiKey, but they cost $10 per person per month, and they're generally aimed at large corporates. So not really suitable or applicable for the individual. So I'll be having conversations with some of my peers to go, hey guys, how can we do this? What's a method? Because they're very interesting and important questions.
Yeah, they are. I really appreciate your time, Luke.
No worries.
Again, every time I sit with you, I learn, and I love learning. So, Luke, have a great week.
You too.
And for everyone else out there, look, please like, subscribe, review, share, and please tell people about digital accessibility. The benefits are for everyone, not just for people like myself. Luke can see the benefits, even on the cybersecurity side, SEO side, it has massive benefits. And our next show will be next week, and talk to you then. Bye-bye.
Thank you.